Okay, for this video I'm going to show you how to create a Photoshop website prototype. It's just going to be a static visual of your website, just to kind of get an idea of the images, the colors that you're planning to use. And before I actually do this in Photoshop, I'm going to recreate the one that you see in front of you. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to show you a website where you can get some really good images. So I'm going to bring my browser in front of you. Unsplash is a very good website, just unsplash.com. You can type in the search here what it is you're looking for, and my theme is going to be Safari. And I get a lot of good images. So once you find an image that you might want to use, you can download it. And I'm just going to kind of do this in a hurry. Maybe I'll grab these elephants. I'm going to click on this little icon here, and it's going to download it to my desktop. Okay. Go ahead and close that. So the first thing I want to do is set up my file. So I'm going to go File, New. I'm going to make sure that I'm in Web. I'm going to set the pixels width and height, and I'm going to do 1,280 for the width. That's becoming very much the standard these days. And I'm going to start with a height of 900. But I could change that. Really, what I really care about is the width. I can always change the height, and I'm going to keep the resolution at 72 because that's for the web. RGB is the right color mode, and I will start with a transparent background. And I will create. So I've got kind of the file ready, and the first thing I'm going to do is create my navigation bar. To do that, I'm going to come down below the black arrow, and I'm going to grab out the rectangular shape tool. At the top here is where you can find colors. If I click here, you can see that there are colors and different kinds of folders with different colors. And I'm just going to go ahead and select this brown. I'm going to come into the design after that, and I'm going to pull out a rectangle for my navigation bar. So you're going to have to decide where you want your navigation bar to begin with. Close that. Sometimes the properties palette pops open. Once you've got the navigation bar, you can always scale it. Maybe you decided, oh, it's too small. To scale something in Photoshop, all you need to do is go Edit, Transform, Scale, and you can scale up your objects. And I'll leave it just about there. Hit my return key to set that in place. All right. Now I'm going to bring in my image. So first off, I'm going to crop it because the one I downloaded is pretty big. So I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to look for it on my desktop, the one with the elephants, and here it is. Now I really want to have a photo under my navigation bar, but this image is way too big, and even when I bring it into my other file, it's going to be too big. But I'll transform it in the other file, but really first what I want to do is select or target part of the image that I want. In Photoshop, you have some simple selection tools. Again, selection tools allow you to target pixels in a photo. And once you have them targeted, you can copy them, you can paste them, and you can delete them. So I'm going to grab the rectangular marquee tool. And with this tool, all I need to do is click and pull out a selection. Now I have targeted this area. I can tell by the dotted lines I've targeted. I can move the selection around as well as long as I'm inside of it. Once I'm happy with what I have, I can go Edit, Copy, and that copies the pixels. I can flip back to my prototype file and I can go Edit, Paste. Okay. It's super big, so I need to scale it down. So what I'm going to do in order to do that, I'm going to zoom way out. I'm going to go to my zoom tool. If I hit my option key, the zoom tool actually becomes a negative zoom, so I'm going to zoom out. Because when I transform it, I need to be able to see the resize handles. So I'm going to go Edit, Free Transform, and I am going to scale it down till it gets to about the size that I want it to be. That looks about good. This time I actually use the free transform. The free transform does everything in this list, but you don't have to actually pick one. The free transform will let you do it all. So I kind of prefer that one. I'm going to zoom back into my website here. And I think maybe it's not giving me quite enough room, maybe a little bit too much sky. So I'm going to bring my navigation bar to the top. In order to move layers in Photoshop, all you need to do is select the layer, hold your mouse down, and push the layer up. Now, the navigation bar is now on the top of my kind of jumbo image that I'm going to have here. And I can still move them around if I'm on the layers. If I want to move this one around, I need to make sure that I'm on that layer. Okay, maybe that's about good. Now what I'm going to do is do my navigation links, and I already have a text document ready, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my text document, which is back here. I just have some dummy text, and the name of my website is going to be Travel Spot, so I'm going to copy that text and kind of move this out of the way. Then I'm going to grab my T tool. With the T tool selected up at the top in the option bar, that's where you select the colors. I can click and I get a color picker, and I can click around to find the color that I want. Or what you can do is actually move it out of the way and actually select colors from your images, which is kind of fun. But I'm going to just go ahead and grab this one and say, okay, I am going to check up at the top. I have Helvetica, but you can pick any typeface that you want from this drop down. Maybe I'll do Helvetica Bold. Next to the font, you do have the styles here listed as well. I selected Bold from the get-go, so that's the one that appears here. Next is the point size for the type. I'm going to start with the 38, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click. I'm going to get some lorem ipsum, but I can select over it and I can paste. Okay, I'm looking here and I'm noticing that my text layer is below my navigation bar. Again, there's a stacking order, so I need to either move my navigation bar down or my text up. I think I'll move my text up. There we go. That looks pretty good. I think I'll have the rest of my navigation over here. Again, I've got a text document just to save some time. I'm going to select this type. I'm going to copy it. Now I want the navigation text to be a bit smaller, so I'm going to come up here and change it to from 38 maybe to 30. Oops, I had that layer selected, so I'm going to undo. I'm going to create a new layer, and now I'll go ahead and do that again. There we go. I think it's still too big, so I'm going to scroll over that text and I'm going to lower it to 30. I guess I had done that earlier, but it didn't pick it up when I moved to a new layer. Okay, now I want to make sure everything in my website is aligned really well, because that's one of the principles of design. In Photoshop, you have rulers. Okay, if you're not seeing your rulers, you just need to go under the View menu and Show Rulers. Again, I close them. I want to view them again, so I'm going to go View Rulers. And when the rulers are open, you can actually click in the rulers, hold your mouse down, and you can pull out an invisible guide. Okay, I said it's invisible because when it prints, it would never print with this bar. It's just for you as a designer to help you align things. I want to make sure that all my text is aligned, so I'm going to pull down a guide from the top here as well. And I actually looks like I did it pretty well. And maybe I want to put another one. I don't want anything too close to the edge, so I want the same amount of space on this side as I have on this side. All right, now with the text, the navigation here, maybe I want to have couple pictures of animals in here. To do that, I've already saved some images, so I'm going to open them up. So I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to grab one of the images that I have saved. I've got an elephant, so I'm going to open up that elephant, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing. Basically, I'm going to grab my rectangular marquee tool and I'm going to draw a selection around the entire elephant image. When I do that, I can select all those pixels and I can paste them in my other file. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go Edit, Copy, flip back over to my design, and I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Okay? Now this one was pretty small, so I didn't really have to resize it. I'm going to go ahead and do that again. I'm going to go File, Open. I'm going to grab the giraffe that I have and open it. I am going to select those pixels. So again, I'm going to my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to draw out a selection and I'm going to copy. I'm going to flip back over to my website file, which is right here, and I'm going to paste. Right now, I'm not worried where they're located. I'll come and align them next, but I have 2 more images I want to bring in. So I'm going to go File, Open again. And this time I'll grab my Rhino and do the same process. I'm going to draw a selection around the entire image and go Edit, Copy. I'm going to flip back to my website prototype, which is right here, and I'm going to paste. Okay? Looks like I have too many tabs open, so I'm going to close some of these tabs, and I don't want to save that. Okay, so now I have 3 images in here, and I have 1 more image I want to bring in. So I'm going to go File, Open, and I'll grab the zebra. Again, I pre-saved these images and cropped them, and I'm going to select the whole zebra, and I'm going to copy those pixels, flip back to my design, and I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Okay. Now they're stacking on top of each other. What I like to do in my layer palette, I like to start from left to right, meaning I want the one to the furthest to the left actually to be on the top. So I'm going to move this one to the top, and the next one, which appears to be this one, I'm going to move this one here. This one here, actually it looks like it was this one. Okay, I guess they're on top of each other. Okay, so this looks like it's the Rhino. So I'm going to move the Rhino over a little bit. I can use those smart guides to help me. I'm going to go to my giraffe and I'm going to kind of visually line that one. And then I'm going to get my zebra as well. And they actually look like they fit really well. I want to make sure that they're aligned to each other. So to do that, I'm going to select all these layers and then I'm going to utilize the alignment tools at the top. To select all these layers, I'm going to hold down my Shift key and just click through them. Then I'm going to go to my Align to Top option, and it looks like I pretty well aligned them, but I'm not quite sure about the spacing, so let me use the next options. It's not appearing here, so I have to click this little icon, and I'm going to space them out here. So it kind of shifted them over a little bit. All right. Now what I'd like to do, I'm going to scroll up a little bit. It looks like my website is a bit short. Now, what I could do is I could change the whole canvas size, but there's another quicker option in Photoshop, would be the crop tool. And you're probably saying to yourself, the crop tool, why would I want to do that? The crop tool not only crops in, but it crops out. So I'm going to grab the crop tool and I'm actually going to pull my website so it's longer. Okay, so the crop tool functions in that way as well. Now, what I'd like to do is have a background color. So behind these images right now, I just see a transparent background. So I want to make sure that I'm pretty low in the layers here. I want to put a layer actually below this one, but what I'm going to do is select this layer, add a new layer, okay, and then I'm going to move this one at the top. So they're in the right stacking order. I'm going to select this layer and I'm going to fill it with a color. So I'm going to go to my color picker right here. When this opens up, I can come in here and select a color, and maybe I'll do a kind of a light one from the dirt and the rhino here, maybe a little bit lighter. So grab that. When you're happy with your color, you can go Edit, Fill, and I can fill the contents based on the foreground color. And that's what I want, so I'm going to say OK. And now I have a background for my website. Now, below these images, maybe I want to have a headline and some text and maybe another image over here, and I also need a footer. So it looks like I might run out a little bit of space, so I might have to extend the canvas size, but I'll wait for that. So the headline that I want is on my text document. I just want to do African National Park, so I'm going to select that text. I'm going to come into Photoshop, and I'm going to go to my T tool. I'm going to pay attention to where I am in the layer palette. I want to make sure that it's at the top here, and I'm going to click. Okay. Now, it looks like the color of my type is the same color as my background. So I'm going to select over that type, and I'm going to click the color chip, and maybe I'll select this brown. Okay. And it's the lorem ipsum, and I can just go ahead and paste over it because I had already copied my text. And I could change the size. Maybe I want the type a little bit bigger for that. Again, I could always come back and also change my font. And maybe for this, maybe I have a stronger bold. Let me look. Bold. Sometimes you have heavy. Maybe condensed black. I'll do condensed black and actually make it a little bit bigger, the point size. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, under this, I want to have a paragraph. Again, I just have some text here, just lorem ipsum kind of dummy text. I'm just going to copy that text and minimize that document. Now, before in the type tool, all I did was click. Now, if I want to contain my type in an area, what I want to do is click and pull. Click and pull, and there is lorem ipsum, but what I want is my lorem ipsum, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in there. Now the type is really big, so I want to go back to my point size and decrease the point size. 24. 24 doesn't look bad. 24. I'm noticing that the lines of text are pretty close together, and part of the problem is I'm still in condensed black. So I'm going to select this type and change it to regular, or maybe medium, maybe let me do medium. Okay. That looks good. I still feel like more space could be in between the lines. To change that, you have a little palette up here. There's a T with kind of an arc. Next to that palette is the character palette. When I clicked on it, it pops some extra palettes open. If you're not seeing this palette, you can always go under the window menu and find the character palette, which is right here, and that'll open it up as well. In the character palette, I can also change the font, the style, the point size, but here is where I can change the line height. So maybe I will pop it up to 36. Oops, I have to select the type, pop it up to 36. That doesn't look too bad. Since it is a text box, I can also change the size of it, and it's going to rewrap the text. Maybe I want to give myself on the other side a little bit more room for another photo. And when I'm done with it, I can just hit my return key or click the move T to set that in place. Now I'm going to put a footer in the bottom. Okay, and to do that, I want to make sure that I have a new layer. So I'm at the top here, and I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to go back to my rectangle tool and change the color. So I'm going to click on the fill, and I'm going to go back to this brown, and I'm going to pull out a bar that my footer text can sit in. Now for the footer text, maybe I want something like, copyright, maybe travel spotlight copyright 2020. So let me go back to my text document. I'm going to copy this and then also say travel spotlight copyright 2020. Maybe I want one of these I-bars. The I-bars are located in your keyboard above your return key if you hold down the shift key. And I'm going to copy that text. Okay. I'm going to move that out of the way. Above this layer, I'm going to create a text layer. Photoshop will create a layer for you, but it doesn't hurt to create your own. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and I'm referring to type layers. and I'm going to go to the T tool. I'm going to check out my color chip here. That's brown on brown, so I'm going to change that to, maybe I'll do the background color here and say OK. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click. I get the lorem ipsum and I'm going to paste in my text. Okay? And I'm paying attention to how things are aligned and making sure that everything is aligned to the left, the right. All these images are aligned. The last thing I'm going to do is put another photo right here. So I've got one more photo, so I'm going to open that up. So I'm going to go File, Open. And it used to be my old banner, but I'm going to use this photo. But I only want to grab this lion right here. So I'm going to go to my selection tool and I'm going to select this lion image. And I'm going to copy those pixels by going Edit, Copy, flip back to my document, and I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Okay, and the size is pretty good, but maybe I want to scale it down. I want to make sure that the top of my image and the top of my headline here are aligned. So I'm going to draw out another guide at the top here of Africa Park, and it's actually pretty good. It's actually sticking to the top of the image. So instead what I will do is actually tweak up my text. So I'm going to find that layer where it says African Park, which is right here. And I'm going to go to my Move tool, and I'm actually just going to use my arrow keys to kind of tweak that down a little bit. All right, the next thing I want to do, maybe I want to put a border on these images. To do that, you can open up the Style panel, and I need to do that through the Layer palette. Okay, so I want to find my elephant. Looks like it's right here. You can either double click one of the empty areas of this layer, or you could come down here where it says where it says FX, and you can choose stroke. Or again, you can double click the layer and it's going to open up the layer style panel, and you can pick from these categories, and I'm going to pick stroke. Oh, I am on the wrong thing. Let me say cancel. Okay, I'm going to click right here. I'm going to double click and I'm going to do stroke. I have a stroke on here, but I don't want it that color. So I'm going to click in the category and I'm going to change the color to white and say OK. I could increase the size of that stroke. I could add a drop shadow, slight drop shadow on that, and when I'm happy I can say OK. When you add a style, a layer style, they end up in your layer panel, and you can turn the visibility on and off as you please. I'll just do one more. I'll go ahead and do the rhino. I'm going to double click. I'm going to go to the stroke category. It remembered the selections that I made last time, so I'm fine with that, but I'm also going to add that drop shadow and say OK. Again, I could do it, and I would want to do it to all these. Oh, I'll just take the time to do it. I'm going to double click. I'm going to do stroke, drop shadow, and say OK. I'll find my last image, which is located right here. I'm going to double click, add a stroke, add a drop shadow, and say OK. I want a consistent look for these images, so I feel like I need to put one on this tiger cub as well. So I'm going to look for that. It's at the top of my layer palette. I'm going to double click. I'm going to add the stroke. I'm going to add the drop shadow and say OK. Okay. I'm actually going to tweak this down because it's not lining up with my guide anymore. So I'm going to go to the Move tool, and then I'm using my arrow keys to kind of tweak him down. Okay. Now I feel like my website is still a bit short, so I'm going to go back to the crop tool, and I'm just going to pull this out a little bit more to give myself a little bit more room. And hit my return key. I'm going to move my footer down, so I need to find the footer layer, which is right here, and also the text I'm going to have to move down as well. So I'm just going to move it down. I'm going to find that text layer, which is right here, and move that down. Okay. When you're done with your prototype, what you want to do is save your Photoshop file. So I'm going to go File, Save, navigate to my Art 116 folder, save it in my Photoshop folder, because a Photoshop file is not a web-ready file format. So I'm just going to call it website, okay, prototype. Okay. All right, now if I wanted to put this image on a web page, I probably wouldn't, but you would have to export it in a file format that is suited for the web. Just as a review, to export a photo for the web, you go File, Export, Export As. Get this dialog that pops open. You need to decide the best file format, and maybe I'll do JPEG. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and export it. I'm going to go to my image folder in my name folder, and I want to take off the default name. I'll just call it prototype. Okay, so that's how you create a website prototype. This would be something that you want to show a client before you actually get into Dreamweaver and start to code this out. So they can make changes and comments here before you actually get into the actual code. Much easier at this point. All right.